Happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope. Tonight is episode 280 of The Daily Dope. Of course, presented by thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. Yes, the editor-in-chief, the founder of The Gaming Gang. So, it is April 10th, 2019. It is a Wednesday. That means it's Wargame Wednesday. And tonight, I will be unboxing and taking a first look at the Dark Valley Deluxe Edition, which is from my friends over at GMT Games. So, I will be getting into that in just a bit. Do want to point out that if you are not familiar with Wednesdays here at The Daily Dope, they are sponsored by my friends over at Tiny Battle Publishing, as well as Flying Pig Games. Yes, there are some new titles that are kicking. I know Tango Down from Tiny Battle Publishing is available right now as a print and play. I don't know if it's actually hit the website just yet, but it looks pretty cool. It is a kind of I guess it's supposedly a modern room clearing game. So it's a kind of tactical modern combat. And I know Flying Pig Games has some expansions on the horizon as well. So I think there's another Kursk expansion coming up. I am not completely positive. I am pretty sure that that is the case. So, just want to point out that, yes, the show tonight is sponsored by both Tiny Battle Publishing and Flying Pig Games. Both happen to be run by my good buddy, Mark H. Walker. All right, so Eric Burden is joining us. The first timer joining us in chat. Says, hi, Jeff, have you ever been to Illinois? I was born and raised in Chicago, and I live in the Chicago area. So, yeah, I would have to say I've been to Illinois. I've been to almost every state in the Union, but I have spent the vast majority of my time living in Illinois, in the Chicago area. I grew up in the city itself on the northwest side, but did spend a few years living out in Arizona, about 10 years altogether living out in the Phoenix area. So there is news tonight, so yes, very cool. So before I jump into the tabletop gaming news, do want to point out, as Eric has pointed out already, if you are watching live, there is chat available on YouTube. If you have a question, feel free, fire away, just like Eric just asked, have I ever been to Illinois? Or if you want to say hello, say howdy, or maybe you'll have a question about the Dark Valley Deluxe Edition, then by all means, chime in. So, hey, Kabuki Kid is here. Sweet. How's it going, Kabuki Kid? Good to see you. Cool. Me too. North Central part of Illinois. Sweet. Very cool. By the way, I'm wearing a pullover tonight because it is cold. It is cold. So, it is down into the 30s. So, I guess I shouldn't really complain. And now I'm looking. There is a fly flying around downstairs here. It's like, I don't understand these bugs. We got one day where it's, fairly nice out, and all of a sudden it's like all these bugs. There's usually all these yellow jackets. It's like, what's going on? It's like one warm day and suddenly all the bugs are out? Crazy, crazy. Yes, hey, and Robert Moffat's popping in. Mounted map board. Yes, that is what we are going to be seeing in the deluxe edition of the Dark Valley in just a few moments. There are some other things, I believe, that are cooking with this edition. I'm not positive, but I will find out. Okay, so anyway, so as you can see, all these folks are popping in on chat right now. So, I do want to also point out that if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Kind of surprised. There are some people out there who join me almost every night in chat who don't do a thumbs up on the video. Kind of weird, but, you know, it's okay. I guess maybe they don't like the show that much. They're just passing time. But anyway, if you check out some of the videos on the Gaming Gang channel, and if you like them, by all means, please subscribe, ring that bell, because that will not only notify you of when there's a new video up, but it'll also tell you when the stream goes live within about 5 minutes or so. And of course, please tell a friend both about the Daily Dope, the Gaming Gang channel, and thegaminggang.com, although the website is very, very popular. So, as I mentioned, tonight is sponsored by Tiny Battle Publishing and Flying Pig Games. There is tabletop gaming news tonight. Yes, that's right. And if you were not watching yesterday's show, the software that I use for streaming did an update. So now when we share images, when I share these different images, they won't be like, boom, which I hated. Back to the nice little fade in. So let's jump on into the news, because family gamers out there will be pleased to know Renegade Games Studios will be releasing a new edition of Bubble Tea. And I've got the dope. Welcome to the most popular bubble tea shop in Taiwan, where you'll find drinks flavored like rich milk tea with a chewy texture and unforgettable good taste. To make an unforgettable bubble tea, you need to pay attention to crucial elements like having more bubbles and less sugar. Even your method for adding ice will make your drink taste differently. Sounds good, right? If you can't wait to make your own, let us shake it. In bubble tea, each player has 2 cards called cups and 9 bubble tea ingredient cards. One player uses the shaker to shake out which ingredients will be needed this game, and whoever assembles these ingredients the quickest wins the game and gets the rewards. Bubble tea is a table game which improves your quickness and reaction time. So doesn't that make it kind of a dexterity game? In bubble tea, players have to roll 6 dice by the real shaker and using 9 plastic cards to match pictures which are shown on the dice. The player who finds the correct combination first gets a customer card. Whoever gets 3 customer cards in the end wins the game and becomes the master of bubble tea. Bubble tea is for 1 to 5 players, ages 8 and up, plays in around 20 minutes, and it will carry an MSRP of $20 when it arrives in June. Very nice. I gotta be very honest, I cannot stand bubble tea. I think it is one of the most disgusting concoctions that I have ever encountered. I had a couple of friends. I don't see them anymore, but not that they did anything wrong. I just don't happen to see them anymore. And they were into all things kind of like Asian. And I gotta say, they turned me on to some pretty cool anime, but they just loved bubble tea. And I was like, this is gross. How can you drink stuff that's got tapioca in it? And I like tapioca pudding. It's not in my drinks. Blah. But I think this is supposed to be a fairly fun game because it originally came out in 2016. So this is a new edition. It was not released by Renegade Games Studios in the past. So this is a new Renegade Games Studios edition of Bubble Tea. Moving right along, the final season of Game of Thrones is going to start this weekend. Woo-hoo-hoo! And Direwolf Digital and HBO have teamed up for a social deduction party game based on the series, and I've got the dope. Who do you trust? If you sit on the Iron Throne, the wisest answer is no one. Game of Thrones Oathbreaker is a game of deception and social deduction. One player assumes the role of king or queen, while the others represent the great lords and ladies of the houses of Westeros. Some are loyalists who want order in the realm. Others are conspirators who seek to undermine the throne. And all of them have a secret agenda of their own. Who is truly loyal? Who is simply hungry for power, honor, and coin? It's up to the king to figure it out before it's too late. Or queen. Don't forget, could be a queen. In more detail, the game lasts 7 rounds. In each round, players reveal a number of mission cards, each on which has an associated influence type: crowns, ravens, or swords. Each noble plays influence cards face down to one or more missions and places their house sigil at the mission where they played the most cards. Then each mission is resolved by shuffling the influence cards there and tallying up successes and failures. If a mission succeeds, order is generated. Otherwise, chaos is generated. Nobles earn rewards, coin, honor, and power based on whether the mission with their house sigil succeeded or failed. The king can play decree cards during the game to grant favor to nobles who seem loyal or cast suspicion on suspected conspirators. Decree cards award order if the king was correct, and chaos in the realm, if the king was wrong. At the end of the game, if order exceeds chaos, the king wins, and any loyalists who achieve their personal ambitions win. If chaos has the edge, then any conspirators who achieve their personal ambitions win. So there isn't just one person coming out on top. Sounds like it's kind of teams. Game of Thrones Oathbreaker is for 5 to 8 players. That's why I said this is a kind of social deduction party game. It's for ages 14 and up, plays in 30 to 45 minutes, and will carry an MSRP of $35 when it arrives this June. So I'm kind of curious how this game will come out, because Direwolf Digital is pretty good. They designed Clank, and I am a fan of Clank. Although I've only played the original. I have not played Clank in Space or anything along those lines. So Kabuki Kid says, never had bubble tea, doesn't sound yummy. It's not. I tried it once and did not care for it at all. But then again, I just have a thing where if it's a liquid, if I'm drinking a liquid, I don't want little things floating around in it. And that's right, never trust Circe. Ever. Czech Edition Games will be releasing a monster hunting game with miniatures later this year, and I've got the dope on Sanctum. Sanctum, once a great city, is now the last beacon of light in a world shrouded in darkness. The lands surrounding the city are home to the demon horde led by the Lord of Demons. I guess that makes sense. It's a demon horde led by the Lord of Demons. It's up to a handful of heroes to rise up, battle through the horde, banish the evil that plagues the world, and restore the realm to its former glory. Sanctum is an epic adventure competitive game for 2 to 4 players that's inspired by the hack and slash genre and converted into a modern board game. As one of the heroes, you embark upon a quest to rid the land of a demonic invasion, fighting your way through countless enemies and gearing up to face the Lord of Demons himself. In the process of venturing deeper into the land, ever so much closer to that demon lord, the heroes have to improve their equipment and adapt their combat tactics to face the increasingly difficult combat. The seemingly simple dice-throwing mechanism turns out to be a tactical delicacy once you realize that equipping the correct gear is a crucial part of surviving in these hostile lands. Sanctum is for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, plays in 1 to 2 hours. There is no exact release date as of yet outside of it's supposed to be coming this fall, and no MSRP available yet either. Seems like this could be kind of interesting. I like the minis. The minis look pretty sweet. They look pretty nice. But then again, you can show off cool looking 3D sculpts and miniatures don't turn out so hot. But hey, it's Czech Games. Czech Games usually does some pretty cool stuff. Didn't they? Weren't they the original publishers of Mage Knight, which I have not played? So, Kabuki says it's dropping frames a bit. I am not dropping them on my end. So, that's going to be a YouTube thing, because I am looking right now. I see absolutely no drop frames on this end here. So, don't know. Once again, I like to point out, sometimes if there's little hiccups in the stream, the finished video doesn't have that. Almost never has that, or unless I drop a bunch of frames. So, yes, so Robert Moffat says Mage Knight. So I think Robert's saying, yes, it was Czech Games. Czech Games Edition that did Mage Knight. Never played it. My best friend Elliot Miller has it. He didn't care for it. He thinks it's way too complex for what it actually seems to be. So I don't know. I have no idea. I know a lot of people love it. Okay, so I should point out, if you're into Dungeons and Dragons and you're one of those folks who just seems to have a lot of accessories, you might be interested in a couple of new monster reference decks, which are coming from Gale Force 9. Here's the dope. Gale Force 9 is going to add to its licensed line of quick reference decks for Dungeons and Dragons with monster cards for Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. These are going to be coming in the third quarter. Volo's Guide to Monster cards includes 81 cards from entries in Volo's Guide to Monsters, featuring creatures with a challenge rating of 1 through 16. The deck includes 44 regular and 50 double-sized cards. MSRP is going to be $20. Then there's Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes cards, which will include 109 enemies from the book, including all creatures with a challenge rating of 1 to 16. There are 38 regular and 71 double-sized cards which will be included. The MSRP on these are $25 for this deck. Both decks are scheduled for a Q3 release. I'm taking a stab. We will see it release at Gen Con. So, I've got to be honest. I am not one of these game masters who likes to have all these extra accessories. I'm more theater of the mind kind of thing. I don't play with miniatures. Okay, so I take that back. I have done handouts for Call of Cthulhu all the time. But reason being is a lot of times they contain clues. But as far as, having cards with monster pictures and stuff, no, I just never really got into that. So that is today's news. Kind of quick, not a ton of stuff cooking, but I have to say I like the idea of having like monster cards, especially when you've got players who have not played any sort of role-playing games. They don't have any kind of point of reference when you're saying, oh, a kobold compared to an orc, compared to a goblin, compared to a hobgoblin. So kind of dig that, kind of like that idea. But I'm one of these people where I tend to be very descriptive. So I can kind of paint the picture of, a kobold compared to a goblin. But that's just me. That is just me. So before I jump into my unboxing for the Dark Valley, a couple of things I do want to point out. Okay, so Robert Moffat says his brother-in-law played Mage Knight years and years ago. So yeah, I've just not had an opportunity to check it out. Now, I believe Elliot's copy is like the latest edition that had come out, because I think it's probably no more than maybe 2 or 3 years old. But yeah, like I said, he didn't care for it. He thought it was I think because he was trying to play it solitaire, which you can, but I think it's easier to play to kind of get into Mage Knight if you've got other players. So I don't know. I can't really tell you. So anyway, I'm going to share what's coming up on episodes this week and into next. I've had a little bit of a change. Do want to mention that Paizo has sent out the starter box, the beginner's box for Starfinder. So that is on its way. If that shows up, I am going to do an unboxing of that on Friday. So just want to point that out. Just want to mention that because things have kind of changed. And I'll explain in a sec when I kind of jump into that. Also, for the Wargamers out there, I am going to reach out to Dan Verson over at Dan Verson Games. And I am also going to reach out to Grant Dalglish from Columbia Games because I used to review stuff for them, and it's been a few years. And I know I've got a really nice wargamer audience out there, and I would like to bring them more releases from other companies, not just always GMT, Tiny Battle Publishing, and Flying Pig Games. Not that I have anything against them. It's just, shake things up a little bit. Because, I used to do reviews for DVG a lot. And then I want to say I think I did like 2 or 3 for Columbia. And then I think it's because I moved. When I moved from Arizona, I think that threw a bunch of stuff off. So, but I am going to touch base. I'm going to see what might be cooking. All right, so before I talk about what's coming up on future shows and get into the unboxing and first look, do want to point out, once again, remind everyone that if you are a fan of the Daily Dope, if you like the Gaming Gang website, by all means, please consider making a small donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund and the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Yes, I am a big proponent of taking care of animals. In fact, Pinky went to the vet again today. She's okay. She's doing all right. She's a fussy cat. I thought for sure we might actually have her come downstairs here and start making noise like she sometimes does. But anyway, Lil Bub's Big Fun actually supplies grant monies to organizations that care for special needs animals who are awaiting adoption. Now, these special needs animals, maybe they're a little long in the tooth, like yours truly, or maybe they're deaf or blind or require some sort of medications every day. Maybe they just have mobility issues. So these pets do deserve good homes, and I guarantee you they will supply 10 times the love you give them right back in return. So if you like the show, if you enjoy the Gaming Gang, consider making a small donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund and the ASPCA. All right, so I was just looking at Pacific Victory, says Rob. Yeah, you know what? Pacific Victory, I think that's fairly new. Warfighter, I have heard some good stuff about too. But yeah, you know what? If you folks out there are big fans of Columbia Games or also Danverson Games, reach out in an email and say, hey, you need to get on the Gaming Gang. You need to get on the Daily Dope, because somehow they have fallen off to the wayside. But I am going to touch base. I am actually going to email tonight. I promise. Now, that doesn't mean anything's going to happen, but I will still do that. All right, so coming up this week. So on tomorrow's show, it's Thursdays. It's Thursday, singular. So that means RPGs. So I will be reviewing the collector's slipcase for John Carter, Warlord of Mars. I know, it's just John Carter of Mars. The role-playing game from Modifius Entertainment. So that's on tomorrow's show. Friday, I was going to review Robotech Crisis Point, which is from Solar Flare Games. And my friend Dave over at Solar Flare reached out to me today to ask, hey, when are you sending along your copy to like the next reviewer or something like that? I was like, what? What are you talking about, sending it out? I thought that's a review copy you sent me. So it turns out that this is actually a prototype. This is a prototype that he had sent out. So I said, okay, and I guess this other person needs it ASAP. So I am going to actually mail that out tomorrow. I was going to do a review, but I'll be very honest. I just thought the game is okay. It's not knocking my socks off. And to be honest, the other Robotech game, the little Robotech card game, where is it? Yeah, I can never find stuff when I'm looking for stuff. The Robotech Macross game that came out is almost, it's not exactly the same, but it is similar. So I said, yeah, you know what, that's fine. I won't do a review. I did the unboxing. I won't do the review. I'll just get it out. So instead of that, like I said, if the Starfinder, almost said Pathfinder, the Starfinder beginner box shows up in time, I will do an unboxing of that on Friday. Otherwise, I am, yes, finally going to do a review of Dark War Rebooted. This is the role-playing game from my friend Mark H. Walker over at Tiny Battle Publishing. If the Starfinder beginner box shows up, I promise this weekend I will shoot a standalone video with my review of it, because it's not going to be a super long review anyway. So on Monday's show, I'm going to be reviewing Judge Dredd: The Cursed Earth, which we were just looking at last night. So I know we are playing this weekend, so I will be reviewing it then. And on Tuesday's show, I will be reviewing Kanban, the Driver's Edition from Stronghold Games. Then on Wednesday, for Wargame Wednesday, I'm going to have to back up so I can hold this box up. It will be a review of Ghost Front. Yes, Belgium 1944 for Old School Tactical Volume 2. So that is what's cooking on next week's shows and the end of this week's shows. Just to point out, Arc Dream Publishing is going to send along some of their Delta Green stuff. Some Delta Green books to take a look at. Sweet. Because they actually... What am I saying? We didn't take a... Yeah, we did. No, we took a look at... Judge Dredd. Yeah, that was last night. The WrestleNomicon review that I did, that was on Monday. And they really liked it. They definitely kind of got a kick out of it. So, yeah. So, there we go. So, there we have it. All right. I know most people are tuning in because they want to actually see what is inside the box of the Dark Valley Deluxe Edition, which is from GMT Games. It's designed by Ted S. Racier with art and graphic design provided by Charles Kibler, Roger B. McGowan, Mark McAfee, or I should say Mahaffey. My apologies. It's Mark Mahaffey and Mark Simonich. The game is for 1 or 2 players, ages 14 and up. It does take a few hours to play depending on which scenario you are playing. The Dark Valley Deluxe Edition is available right now from GMT Games. It does carry an MSRP of $79. Taking a quick sip. So Rob says that game gets crazy good ratings. Not sure which game he might be talking about. So let's move on over to the other camera here. And before I open this up, I do want to mention somebody had emailed me and they had asked about like chat, when I'm responding to people in chat. How come I usually tend to sometimes repeat sort of what's in chat, right? And I pointed out that about 40% of the people who watch the Gaming Gang videos, so for an example, the Daily Dope, they do not watch on YouTube. They actually watch on the Gaming Gang. So if they're watching on the Gaming Gang website, they don't see the chat. So I tend to kind of throw some, people's names there when I'm responding, because if you're not watching on YouTube, you don't see the chat. So it's kind of, if I just kind of just make an answer like, oh yeah, sure, right, I completely agree, people not watching on YouTube are going to wonder, what the hell am I talking about? And yes, Kabuki Kid is correct. GMT rarely disappoints. So we've got the Dark Valley. It's the East Front campaign. I always say Eastern Front campaign, 1941-45. This originally came out, I believe, if memory serves me, came out in 2013. And it was a smaller box. It had paper board. So my understanding, and I may not be correct, so don't burn me in effigy if I'm wrong. My understanding is we're going to have a mounted board in here. I can tell because it's heavier. It's going to have a mounted board. I believe the counters are thicker. I think the counters are thicker. And I do believe the game board is dual-sided, because I think there's a new scenario in here. All right, come on. There we go. So, as we find with a lot of GMT games, we open it up. There is no air. There's no empty space in this box, which is one of the things I can say 90% of the time is true of GMT releases, that there is no empty air. So, like, Welcome to Centerville is a game that pops into my head where it's like, okay, yeah, there's some space in there, but that's also packed with gaming goodness. All right, so let's I'm gonna move the cover off to the side for a sec. So we've got the rule book. So we got the new rule book. We got the scenario book. Yeah. So let's take a look at the rules here. Take a quick run through this. So if you caught my review of the Dark Sands, which is the African campaign, this game does utilize some of the same systems, I do believe. So Kabuki Kid says, GMT plus Deluxe usually means a mounted board and thicker counters. Yeah, but a lot of times GMT doesn't actually say it's a Deluxe edition. They just say it's it's like a third printing, let's say, as an example. And just like if you actually go to the website, I'm not even sure if GMT is referring to this as a Deluxe edition. They might be. They might be. But yeah, normally GMT doesn't say, oh yeah, this is the Deluxe. Like, you know, just throwing stuff out. You know, Deluxe, what the, jeez, now I can't think of a single GMT game. They're all right behind me. So for an example, it's not like a Deluxe Distant Plane, even though they might make some changes to it. Okay, so we got the introduction, talking about game components, showing off the counters. Showing off the various different units. Explaining the symbols, unit size symbols as well. Information and symbology, historical ID abbreviations, showing us the background, color, and who they represent. The armor icon key. I wish more game companies, and this really isn't a knock, I wish more game companies would utilize, if they're going to use a silhouette of armor or vehicles, then in my opinion, if they're going to do that, if they're not going to use some iconography, I would prefer to see just an image of infantry, as opposed to, I think it's a little odd where you'll see silhouettes or top downs of armor, and then you've got like NATO symbols for the various different troops. Hey, Lead Magnet's popping in. Good to see you, Lead Magnet. So yeah, there you go. So Lead says, I like paper maps, leaves room for counter trays. That's true. I don't know. You know, I don't know how many gamers really use counter trays anymore. I remember back in the day, the old SPI had counter trays sometimes. Who was the company that always had counter trays with their games? SPI sometimes did it, but there was a company that's long gone. I know it wasn't GDW, but I seem to remember there was a war, and they were mainly Wargames. Wargame company that almost always had some sort of a counter tray in all their games. And yes, Pinky did come down here, and you may have just heard her. So, hey, at least she's cheerful now. She went to the vet, and now she's. I mean, it was just a follow up. She wasn't sick or anything like that. But yeah, she doesn't like going to the vet, and I honestly can't blame her. So, all right, so moving right along, we got reinforcements, replacements, conversions, withdrawals. Talking about the Axis, the Soviets. Talking about air power, strategic movement, the action phase. So, of course, this is a larger scale than the Dark Sands. And I believe, I may not be right. So, John Vogel pops in, says the Avalon Hill Game Company. If you're talking about a company that included counter trays, Avalon Hill did not. Avalon Hill did not include counter trays. I'm trying to remember who it was. Yeah, but Avalon Hill, that's a blast from the past. I love me my Avalon Hill stuff. For the most part, there's some less than stellar releases towards kind of the end of its lifespan. But I remember the company used to have, they would have the game, right? So you would have and the game didn't come in a box. The games came kind of like in plastic. So you had the bottom of the, what would be the box normally, was the counter tray. And then you had the counters, then you had the rules, you had a paper map, and then there was a plastic like cover to them all. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was SPI. I'm not positive. Because I remember there was a counter tray in the original War of the Ring. There was a counter tray, but that came in a box. All right, so we got movement, we've got combat. Talking about terrain effects, retreats and advances. Forts, fortified zones, defensive works, special fortified zones. Talking about artillery, logistics. Headquarters and leaders. Axis and Soviet miners. And assault guns and tigers. And then we got an index. So that is the rules. Clocking in at 27 pages. So pretty good sized. Now, what I normally will do, and I'm not sure if we're going to see that in here. Yeah, I guess we are. We're going to see an example of play. What I tend to do when I'm checking out, I think Robert's right. I think Lead Magnet and Robert Moffat are correct. I think it was SPI, and I think it was some of their, I guess we'll say maybe not flagship titles that came with it, with that kind of like packaging. Because to be honest, the packaging was pretty crappy. That plastic broke apart pretty easily. Anyway, I was going to say what I normally will do when I'm like learning most GMT games is I will actually read like the playbook or the scenario book first before I actually really dive into the rules. Because I don't know, for me sometimes just reading the rule book, things don't click. Yeah, the SPI trays were really flimsy, Lead. SPI did the quad games and the Normandy game with trays that I talked about. Yeah, John, that's probably right. But like Avalon Hill, I know didn't do storage trays. If they did, maybe they did it in a couple of games. But that usually was not the case, because I had a lot of Avalon Hill stuff. I wish I still had those. Yep. All right, so this is the scenario book. So we've got Operation Barbarossa, Fall Blanc. I don't know. I'm not even be able to pronounce this. Operation Zitadel? Yeah, it must be Zitadel, is my guess. Operation Baglashan. Then we get into the design notes. Here's our example of play. So this is where I usually start kind of getting in to check stuff out, is in the example of play. Start reading this. I got to be honest. I think that from the beginning, that's kind of how I've approached GMT stuff. Even games that aren't overly complex, like Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle has a really nice example of play. If I remember correctly, I think it's actually from a tournament that they actually kind of do, you know, turn by turn from a tournament that was going on for Twilight Struggle. Well, let me grab another quick sip here. So we have some player aids. So we've got our combat results table A and table B. Got a bombardment table, access depot advanced table. Of course, that explains the combat results. And we've got a terrain effects chart on the back. So we've got 2 of these. Then we've got, I believe we should have, well, we only have the 1. We've got the sequence of play. Then it's talking about weather effects. And action chit availability. Got axis replacements, axis conversions and withdrawals. Soviet replacements, Soviet conversions. Special rule reminders. And additional rule reminders. So we've got these. So all in all, we have 5 handouts. We've got 2 copies of the combat results. So we've got that. And then looks like we've got a good number of counters here. And I am going to actually zoom in for us to take a look at the counters. All right, so here we go. So this is Barbarossa to Berlin, which I believe is on the flip side of the board. So showing off German units here. And of course, these are dual-sided. So we got U.S. forces in this as well. You can see right there. So we even see U.S. beachhead counter, British beachhead counter, Allied beachhead there. Okay, so we got that. Looks like we've got a few sheets of counters. So talking about a little extra thickness, that is the thickness right there. So pretty good thickness. I'll be the first to admit, I really do love the nice, big, chunky 3/4 of an inch or 1 inch counters that we see with a lot of the Flying Pig Games releases. I'm just a big fan. I'm just a huge fan of the counter size. But of course, something like this where you're going to have a lot of units, pretty impossible to include all of those units in 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch counters. So we've got some informational markers here, combat axis actions. Got dual side again. So these are actually the 2 counter sheets for Barbarossa to Berlin. So that's what we've got there. So Robert says, I need my Oregon Laminations 2.5 counter rounders. See if I can get Jeff wound up. No, you're not going to get me wound up. You're not going to get me wound up. I don't clip my counters. I don't have time. I don't have time. I mean, if I were like, okay, kind of going off on a tangent a little bit. If I were the sort of person that I didn't have to, if I wasn't running a website, if I wasn't doing like a nightly show most Mondays through Fridays and stuff, yeah, I would probably, go and clip my counters and stuff. But I just can't. I don't have the time. So Robert says, there he goes. I'm not wound up. Not wound up at all. You rarely see me get wound up on the show because honestly, in real life, I don't get wound up too often. So, all right. So these are the Dark Valley counters here. But this is what I was talking about where, okay, so we get silhouettes of armor and then we've got just the little icon. I don't know. To me, it's sort of like, I can see why you want to do this because Yes, I know a lot of people are like really into the armor and vehicles and stuff, so I get it. I'm right there. I'm right on that. Uh, but I figure if you're gonna do this, then you should. I don't know. To me, it's going to appeal to more less diehard wargamers out there. Yes. So Rob Moffat's just teasing. Well, I know. I'm cool. I'm all good. So that's one of the things that far too many wargame companies aren't really addressing. And I know it's something that's been talked about for years, but like the graying of the hobby and things like that. You see fewer and fewer teenagers really getting into wargames. And some of it is because of the look. You know, they're used to seeing all these, you know, video games and things that pop, you know, when you're staring at, you know, all these counters that look like this, not as much appeal. So, of course, when I was a teenager and I first started getting into war games and things like that, we didn't have all the cool stuff now. I mean, our computer games were all like Infocom, I should say, where we were just, you know, had to type words in. It was like, yeah, totally different. Yeah, so like Robert says, he agrees, you know, use images, less NATO symbols. Yeah, I mean, because the hobby is not going to go anywhere if it's just us, right? And it's difficult to, you know, get people excited about war games when your counters look like, and I'm not knocking GMT by any stretch, because GMT does really great stuff, but sometimes it's sort of like you can't preach to the choir. Just like I knock this company all the time, and I'm sure people don't like the fact that I do that, but Decision Games immediately comes to mind. Decision Games is one of these companies that it's just the same shit from 1975, just recycled over and over and over again. And, you know, it's just they're selling to the same people. They're selling to the same niche hobby out there, that niche group out there. So one of the reasons why I love so much of the GMT stuff, because, yeah, GMT will release a traditional hex and counter kind of war game, and then they'll turn around and come out with something like Hitler's Reich, which is completely different. Or Cataclysm, which is completely different. It's not your usual thing. So just like with my friends over at Flying Pig Games and Tiny Battle Publishing, their stuff isn't always the same old. So Led says depends on scale, like infantry images at platoon scale, but NATO for company and above. Yeah, that makes sense. You know, I would say so. And we have to keep in mind that, you know, the scale of this is pretty large. So we've got a couple of 6-sided dice. I don't believe we've got anything underneath here, but we'll double check, because every once in a while there might be something. Nope. Nothing underneath there. So let's take a look at these mounted boards. I'm going to put these counters back in and kind of move this out of the way, because I guarantee this is going to take up a lot of space. I don't think it's just one. I think it's... Well, if it is one, then there's going to be one monster size. Monster sized. Got to be careful there. So, okay, so I got to be honest. Okay, so we've got, what, 2? Yep, we got 2. Once I take the boards from GMT out of the plastic, they never go back in this plastic, because it's always such a tight squeeze. I don't want to actually fox one of the ends here. So, and that's happened. That has happened. So, so Led says, really like the boards bag, saves wear and tear in the box. Very true. It also depends on where you live. If you have a lot of issues with really high humidity, things like that, I could definitely see, yeah, you want to keep your boards bagged. here in the Chicago area, it's not so bad. But if I lived, say, like in Houston, I would be like, yeah, we're done playing. Okay, everything's going back in the bag. Okay, so we've got the turn record. And then we've got the top portion of the board here. This is big. This is a good size. This is only the first half of the board here. So as we can see, we've got Warsaw. Let's see if I can fold this and lift this up so I can bring out the other half of the board. So then we've got Vienna down here. Berlin right at the edge of the board. Got other fronts box, air assets for the Axis, or I should say Axis air and assets box. We got a terrain key that runs down here, all across that. Got a box for eliminated units. So this is the left side of the board. So Led says, I have the opposite problem. Lack of humidity causes my boards to warp. Yeah, it's kind of strange. Just kind of all depends. Depends on where you're at. Now, when I lived in Phoenix, it wasn't in Phoenix. I was in Mesa and Chandler. I never had any problems with any of my game boards warping, and there isn't a whole lot of humidity out there in Arizona. There's more than people think. I'll tell you that much, because you got so many people who all have they all have to have a pool and lawns, and they all have to have trees and everything else, which wasn't the case way back in the day. Okay, so this is going to be the top portion of the board here. So we've got here, we've got Soviet and air assets, the Stavka reserve box, eliminated units. Then we get into, how far east do we go? Let's take a look. Gorky, Saratov, Rostov. That looks like that's as far as we're going there. Okay. Then we got the bottom portion down here of the board. And then, as I had mentioned, we've got World War II, Barbarossa to Berlin on the back. So this was a special bonus that GMT included in this. So yeah, altitude probably does have an effect on the boards. That's probably a good point. So yes, this was completely a bonus for people who were getting the deluxe edition of the Dark Valley. So you've got World War II, Barbarossa to Berlin. So pretty sweet, pretty cool. That is a pretty cool board there, because we're going all the way up to Norway, into Spain down here. We've got the Med. So we got Syria and Iraq, Soviet Union. So pretty sweet. So this is the bonus board. All right, so we've got all the counters. So we had, what was it, 4.5 counter sheets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, where'd my half sheet go? Ah, there it is. So yep, so we got 4.5 counter sheets here. We've got the 2 very cool mounted boards. We've got the player handouts, player aids. Got the scenario book with 4 scenarios, and the rule book. And that is what we find when we take everything from the Dark Valley Deluxe Edition outside the box. Very sweet, very, very cool. So as I pointed out, the Dark Valley Deluxe Edition is available right now from GMT Games. It does carry an MSRP of $79, as I like to mention with all GMT games, if you have any interest whatsoever in picking it up, grab it while you can, because this has been out of print for a while. This has been I don't think it's been out of print since I think there was a second print run of it. Because if I remember correctly, it came out originally in 2013. But I know I got a copy of it after that. So I'm pretty sure this is actually the third printing. But it is a deluxe edition. It will sell out pretty quickly. So by all means, if you have any interest in checking it out, get on over to your favorite game store to carry Wargames. Or, go online to GMT Games or check out your favorite online retailer. All right, so Robert Moffat says 2 games. No, I don't believe it is 2 games. Well, actually, you know what? It's got to be 2 games. Unless it's just the board and the counters. But you know what? We weren't seeing rules. Let's go back for a second. We weren't seeing rules for from what is it? Barbarossa to Berlin? Let's take a look. It's just the new board. It's a mounted board. So we know that. And then we've got the counters. But I think these are just actually a bonus if you happen to have from Barbarossa to Berlin. I don't know, because I do not see, there were no rules or handouts that I think. Let's double check. Let's take a look. Nope, these are all the Dark Valley. Yes, they do say it is a deluxe edition on this. There's a scenario book, and all of these handouts are for the Dark Valley. So those are just new counters and a new board for those out there who own. Because I thought Barbarossa to Berlin is a completely separate game available through GMT. So I think that might be it. Would things be as tight in the Dark Valley box without the insert? No, it would not. There are times when I take the insert out of my GMT games too. So CSI had it and sold out in less than 2 games when it came in last week. There you go. So Eric says it's just the boards and counters for Barbarossa to Berlin. No cards or rule books. That's what I thought. I thought it was just a kind of an extra, like Rob just said, extra cool bonus to people who were picking up the Dark Valley. So, though it is kind of odd to pick up a deluxe edition of a game that includes some new stuff for another game that's absolutely not from the same designer or anything. So, I don't know. Kind of weird. Kind of cool. Kind of cool, but kind of weird. All right, so as I mentioned on tomorrow's show, I will be reviewing the collector's slipcase of John Carter of Mars from Modiphius Entertainment. This is the core rules as well as the first supplement. So I will be reviewing that. So Lead Magnet says you can download the rules. Yes, you can. For the most part, usually you can get the rules from GMT's website. But I thought that's card driven. I thought that game is card driven. So I don't think you can download the cards. But anyway, so I will be reviewing John Carter of Mars on tomorrow's show. So, as I always like to point out, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, please be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Come on, by now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Enjoy your Wednesday night. Everybody in chat, thank you so much for popping in and passing the time with me. And of course, if you are watching after the fact, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.